Look at the screen in front of you. That's Pastor Brown. He runs a church in Arima. The police went to his house and took his gun and some more information. And the pastor came out and said he's a spy for the SSA, that's the spy agency in Trinidad that's funded by taxpayers. Now, what makes this very interesting, I think the SSA and this pastor and his cronies are the ghost gang, and I'ma tell you guys why. I'ma break this case down. Yo, 3 murders since 2019, and that's why the Prime Minister decided to come in and scrap this agency, the director, which is Mr. BUSS, and put him on administration leave, hire somebody else, and start investigating. Yo, Trinidad is one of the most corrupt places on the planet. Listen to this. Well, this is a straight mix-up. Now, on March 2nd of this year, the Prime Minister, he made a post on Facebook and him fire the SSA director, that is the central, pretty much a central intelligence agency, the spy agency in Trinidad. And the name of the director is Major Roger BUSS. He was sent on administration leave. Now, what triggered that situation right there? It's the murder of this young man here. Now, look at the picture in front of you. That's on the Butler Highway in Trinidad, and that's Mr. Andy Daniel. You see the undertaker them is taking him away into the dead car. Somebody shot him in his van. He was sitting on his van or waiting, parked up at the light, and somebody came and assassinated Mr. Andy Daniel. Now, who's Mr. Andy Daniels? Now, this information is courtesy of the Guardian newspaper, because they did a real good job. Now, look at that in front of you. Mr. Daniels, he is a contractor with the SSA and the government. He works and put in CCTV cameras in different government buildings, and he has private rich people that he does camera systems for. You understand? So he was a contractor with the government and worked on his own putting in CCTV. Now, there is rumors saying that Mr. Andy Daniels, he would put in these camera and retain the administrative information to these people camera, so he could log in and look at people and get information, as well as he was working for gangsters and different entity. That's what's coming out. So my thing is, Mr. Daniels seemed like he was a contractor, but it seems like he must be spying also for the SSA. This is just my opinion. I'm not even lying. This story coming out of Trinidad, you know, it's like a wacky spy novel. It's crazy because, yo, there's over 3 murders, you know, with this SSA that we know about. And what is the SSA? It's Trinidad Spy Agency. Their duty is to collect information and threat that's going on within the state of Trinidad and Tobago, and try and stop any threat, meaning criminal, whatever, national security. So they work with the National Security Agency. Now, the man in the picture right there is Mr. BUSS. And Mr. BUSS is the one who was the director that Mr. ROWLEY, the Prime Minister, fired. I want you guys follow me now. Please follow me on this. Now, Mr. BUSS was introduced to Mr. Brown, and he was introduced to Mr. Brown by a army captain, Kiefer, Mr. Kiefer. When Mr. BUSS was introduced to Mr. Brown, the pastor, it seems like they clicked and they became best friends. Now, why I feel they are the ghost gang? This spy agency, they had people all over Trinidad in the different organizations, and they are given money by the taxpayer, the agency, and then they pay these informants anywhere from $500 to $10,000 to provide information to the state. Now, the SSA, they target a lot of pastors and they target a lot of imams because, you know, those are the churches in the neighborhood and the church keep their ears to the ground. And it seems like they also recruit certain gang members to pass on information. But my thing is, you have a spy agency in Trinidad and yet still so many killings are going on. But back to what I was saying, I feel they are the ghost gang because they have so many different connections and they were doing killings. Because you see, Mr. Daniel died on the Butler Highway, and that's what triggered the Prime Minister to step in and stop the SSA. Now, look at this. Now, I've never seen anything like this, and this is very serious. So this was one of the reasons why Dr. ROWLEY even went overseas to get advice. Now, look at that. It says, furthermore, the government began to unearth the situation with the SSA, how they hijacked the government underneath his watch. Intelligence source said that it was discovered that the church had significant high-ranking members throughout the country's national security apparatus, from Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to the Air Guard to the Defense Force. You guys want me to read that again? That's why I said this is the ghost gang. And I think Prime Minister ROWLEY and Minister HINDS, them bust the ghost gang. Let me read this again. Sources said it was discovered that the church had significant high-ranking members throughout the country's national security apparatus in Trinidad and Tobago, from the police services to the Air Guard to the Defense Force. And don't forget, gang members and contractors out there who's on the ground. So they have all this money, and what they're doing, they're taking the money and they're paying these rogue people saying they're collecting information, and nothing has been done in terms of bettering the crime, better security, better safety for the people. I have never seen anything like this in my life. I must say the Trinidad police did a good job on this, because this has been going on. Remember now, there is 3 murders, that took place. The murder of Mr. Andy Daniels, and I'm going to talk about his wife in a little bit, because she is the assistant director, was the assistant director for the SSA, the spy agency, and he ended up dying. That's kind of fucked up and kind of crazy, but The police the police force was the one who brought this information to the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister is the head of the National Security Council, along with Mr. HINDS as the Vice Chairman, and they get report on crime and information, and they brought this to the police. But what really triggered it is the killing of Mr. Andy, November 11th, 2023 last year. So the police force did a good job on this spy agency. You understand? Now, it gets even worse. Look at this. Now, in 2019, there was a double murder, and the person who dead is right there in front of y'all. It's Akeem Khan and Brian Felix. Now, Mr. Akeem, he owned a big piece of land beside the church where Pastor Brown church is. Let me repeat that one more time. Mr. Akeem Khan, on the left right there, owned a piece of land that his father gave him, and it was near the church. Mr. Brian Felix, he's a logger. He knows how to cut down trees and clear it and them things there and log it out and deal with wood. So it seems like Mr. Akeem and Brian, they were good friends, I would say best friends. Mr. Akeem and Mr. Brian went to cut down some trees and log out some wood off Mr. Akeem property, and never came back home. Upon investigation, they realized that Mr. Akeem and the pastor had a disagreement, because the pastor was using a part of Mr. Akeem's land, I think, for parking or something as a road so the people can come to the church. And he kept on stealing the man's land, like cutting over and over. And Mr. Akeem talked to him about it. And then the people them said they saw army people dressed in camouflage on Mr. Akeem's property. Next thing you know, the two man them is found dead with shotgun blasts. And you know, the people them suspect that it's the pastor and it's coming from the SSA, because remember, the church, the pastor was really running the SSA, the spy agency, because Mr. Bess, Major Bess, he became a deacon in the church and was running with the pastor. So, and they had people right throughout the law enforcement logistics of Trinidad. They had people in the police agency, they had people all over in gangs, they had people in the Air Force, in the army, plus they had regular people. You understand? Very, very dangerous. So these two guys disappear. The pastor and the SSA is being blamed for it. The case went on dead for 5 years. But now, since the death of Mr. Andy Daniels, the Prime Minister fired the director of the SSA. Okay, fire some people, take away them gun, investigating, put in a new director, and also fire the associate director. And with that said, I want to talk about her. Now, real quick before we talk about this lady, Joanne Daniels. The pastor had a son, Ian Brown, and he worked for the SSA. So he was a SSA agent, And like I say, Mr. Best hired the pastor and started paying him $25,000 a month. You understand? And the pastor also had a licensed firearm. So in the picture and the videos that I did, yes, he was actually a spy, and he was working for the SSA, which is Mr. Best. And the pastor said he feels his life is in danger. Well, I want you're a burn notice. Once you're a spy, if people didn't know, once you're a spy, you know, and you get popped, use a burn notice. And there was a TV show called Burn Notice, where a guy is an ex-spy because he was discovered, and now he goes around helping people. I guess that's what the pastor, I guess, is trying to emulate, like the Jamaican Steven Seagal, him had the Trinidad Burn Notice. You understand? Now, look at the screen in front of you. Mr. Brown, which is the old dirty pastor, told the Trinidad Guardian, and respect to the Guardian media dog, because they did a good job on this, that both Andy Daniels and Joanne Daniels was congregants at his church. So Mr. Daniel went to the church and his wife, and the church is the Jerusalem Bride in Malabar Arima. Listen to this, you know, and if anybody a go to that church there, the whole of una got a bomb buckler at hell. Cause una pastor a big body wall, yo, straight up. And it's just such a fucking shame. And somebody soon kill a pastor there, you know. Cause remember now, them take away him gun, and him not have no more license gun. You understand? Him a big pussy. You understand? But let me get back to this, cause I get too emotional. Brown told the Guardian media that both Andy and Joanne were congregants at his church, the Jerusalem Bride in Malabar Arima. Now he said at the time of Andy's death, it was reported that Joanne was living at the home of the pastor. So the man was able to manipulate the assistant director of the SSA, Trinidad's spy intelligence agency, and also manipulate the director, which was Major Best, and the assistant director husband end up dying on a highway in his car, and the pastor tried to say that he spoke to Mr. Andy Daniels 2 weeks before his death and was telling him like the job he was doing, putting up cameras for politicians and people, and retaining the administration privilege was dangerous. But to me, when the pastor tell the Guardian media that's just a smoke screen, his wife was living at the pastor house, okay, and the director was a deacon in the church, and the assistant director was living at the pastor house. The ghost gang, the pastor, totally hijacked the Trinidad National Spy fucking agency. And then Miss Joanne, I shouldn't even call her Miss Joanne, Waste Girl Joanne, who is the director of the assistant director, your husband end up dying while you're living up in the pastor house. Explain that, and the police knows all of this, what was going on, and Mr. Andy's death, Joanne's husband death, triggered the Prime Minister and the National Security Minister to rein in this rogue fucking spy agency that's paying people anywhere from $500 to $10,000 to become informants in Trinidad and Tobago and getting information, and instead of making the country better, the pussy them fuck up the country. Listen, my name is Countryman. Remember to like, share, subscribe and click on another video. And let me know how you guys feel about this. The ghost gang get busted, in my opinion. The corruption, the waste of money, and all of this, is because Trinidad is a rich country. Because you see, if Trinidad wasn't rich, more pussy would have dead. You see, you don't see where barbecue them though, in Haiti. They run with the blood clot Prime Minister. You understand? So, let these Caribbean countries keep it up, yo. Cause don't you think people are gonna take a book out of barbecue them and yo. But long story short, the SSA was hijacked by the ghost gang, taking over. 2 people dead, 3 people died. Mr. Daniels, Mr. Alim Khan, and Mr. Felix. And all of that went to the Prime Minister, and that's what triggered the investigation and the shake-up. And I think the police did a good job, and the Prime Minister did a good job with Mr. HINDS, because listen, they put people in place for run certain things who's supposed to have integrity, and unfortunately you see what's going on in Trinidad. My name is Countryman. One more time, remember to like, share, subscribe and click on another video. I'm out.